Welcome back to the Charity Matters podcast. I'm Heidi Johnson, lifelong helper, nonprofit founder, and your host. I've been interviewing the helpers for a decade with my blog, and I'm so grateful to now be sharing these inspiring conversations on our podcast. Join me as we learn the challenges and stories of innovators, entrepreneurs, and modern-day heroes who set out to solve the problems of humanity. Today, our guest is Heather Donatini, the co-founder of the BumbleBee Foundation. Join us for this inspirational and moving conversation to hear the journey that created this amazing organization that's mission is to provide hope and faith and support to families with pediatric cancer. I think it's a conversation you're not going to want to miss. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we are thrilled to have you. Tell us a little bit about what the BumbleBee Foundation does.
BumbleBee is a nonprofit that was established in 2011 in memory of our son, Jaron Donatini, who lost his battle with liver cancer at the age of 4.5. BumbleBee exists to support other pediatric cancer families fighting the same battle that our family fought. And we do that through 6 programs, with our largest being our patient aid program.
And what is the patient aid program?
The patient aid program provides financial support for families and can literally be anything that is going to lighten the journey or lighten the load for a family. Sometimes it's just a utility payment. Sometimes it is a gift card for coffee. A cup of caffeine is a mighty thing in the hands of a very tired parent. We do anything from that on up to helping with rent and mortgage assistance and in between. Whatever it is that's going to make the journey a little bit easier for our families is what we strive to do.
Wow, that is amazing. Well, I think so many people, we all have loss in our lives, some in bigger ways than others, and losing a child is unimaginable. But there's so many people that have loss and they don't turn around and do something with it. So, and that's really, to me, the magic of why, to me, people like you are my superheroes, and I think the heroes of our world, because you take that pain and you use it as fuel for good. And there's nothing to me more inspiring than that. But here you have this incredible loss of your son. And at what moment did you decide, I need to do something? I mean, grief is so horrendous. I can't imagine. Tell me the series of events that led to you deciding to do this.
It really is. I mean, obviously, you never ever think that something like that is going to happen to you, to your children. But when it hits the entire family. And we watched our son fight for 18 months for his life. And these children are my heroes because they're always smiling and they have the best attitude ever. When our son Jaron took his final breath, honestly, is when my husband Jason and I knew the exact moment that we needed to do something too. That Jaron's life was not in vain. That we were honored to have been chosen to be his parents if he was only going to be here for 4.5 years. And that there were other families lying in the hospital beds of the place that we had just left that were still fighting. And not just for them, but for the ones that were to come, the ones that were going to be diagnosed that we didn't know about yet. We had tremendous support from our community. And we saw other kiddos that did not have that same support. And we wanted to build BumbleBee to be a gap to bridge that support for these families that were fighting just like us.
That is so amazing. So did you start immediately? I mean, what was the process of getting going? Because I think people don't realize, I think people often think, oh, charity and nonprofit, oh, it's just asking for money. It's so simple. And it is, there is nothing simple about it. Nothing at all. I'm a nonprofit founder. I run a nonprofit as my day job. I've interviewed hundreds of them, and it is really hard work.
It's a labor of love. That is for
100%. 100%.
24/7, but that's okay. It's okay. There was a little bit of a process. Yes, we didn't jump in immediately, even though we knew that that's what we needed to do. So at the time, we were a family of 4. Jaron was 4.5, and our youngest was 2. And we had spent the last 18 months of his life essentially away from him because he was either 2 hours one way with my parents or 2 hours the other way with my in-laws because we had no family nearby. And so our son Vincent was, maybe we would see him 1 or 2 days a month. We didn't see him. We missed so much of his 18 months. And so when he passed, we decided to take some time away now as a family of 3 just to reconnect and think about our next steps and what we were going to do. And so we took a trip. We were gone for about a month and just took some time away to reflect, to think about the future of what we were going to do and to come up also with a name for our foundation. One of the things that we had thought about obviously was naming it after our son, Jaron.
Right.
But we were in Hawaii, and while we were in Hawaii, there were bees that kept following us everywhere in the most random of places. I'd be in the middle of the ocean and a bee would float by. We were at the pool, the toddler pool with our son Vincent for, I kid you not, 6, maybe 8 hours for the day. And there was a bee that was there the whole entire time. The moment that we got up and left the pool, the bee flew away. And there continued to be these random bee sightings. And then there was one time while we were there, my husband Jason put on the movie Transformers for Vincent, and we had watched it no less than 1,000 times. And there's a scene in the movie where Optimus Prime, the leader of the Autobots, or the good guys, is introducing all of the Autobots to the main character, Sam. And he turns to Sam and he says, "You already know your guardian, Bumblebee." And it was as if stood still. Jaron loved Bumblebee.
I have chills everywhere, by the way.
It was favorite. Bumblebee was his favorite, along with Buzz Lightyear in the color green. But Bumblebee, and Bumblebee's the guardian. And so we immediately knew that that was the name of the organization, Bumblebee Foundation.
I love that. I love that. Well, I tell people all the time when someone dies to look for the signs, and people look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, no, you really need to, you'll know what they are. No one else will know, but you will know. And I've told that to more people, and they look at me like I'm insane. And weeks later they come up to me and say, "Thank you for telling me that, because I wouldn't have seen, the crazy different things that people see that are all very different, but they're all very personal. And you just know, know."
Absolutely relate. I get so many signs and so many affirmations all the time. Like you said, you just had the chills. I had the chills telling the story. And crazy is after we'd finally decided Bumblebee Foundation, I was going through Jaron's things when we got back from our getaway, and I came across what would become our logo. And
your bee.
Actually, Jaron created in a Mommy and Me class. The wings of the bee are his traced hands.
Oh, I love that.
We say everything's meant to be around here, with obviously pun intended, but
right.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. And I have lived all of that as well in my starting a nonprofit and the logo and the same. We had a similar journey, which I'll tell you offline another time, but I have had the same thing happen. And that's how our logo was created with the nonprofit that I started in 2003. But tell me about when your challenges. I mean, this work isn't easy. It's hard. And there's a lot of things that you are dealing with in starting a business that helps people, that serves families. I mean, so what were some of the challenges that you kind of stumbled upon in this journey of?
Well, initially it was me, myself, to get out of my own way. My husband and I, we've been married 24 years this year, and he and I were.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We work very well together in the fact that he's the dreamer and he's the one, with these high aspirations. And I'm the one going, wait a second, how are we going to implement this? How are we going to do that? How's this going to look? And then we meet somewhere in the middle. And so when we started BumbleBee, I didn't have experience in a nonprofit. I didn't have background in nonprofit. Most of us don't choose this or say, I'm going to go.
No one chooses it.
And so just being obedient to that calling and knowing that this is what we were supposed to do. And as you said, getting these signs along the way. Somebody had once told me that skills can be built, but passion cannot. And those of us are in the nonprofit industry or field, we truly understand that. I can take classes to figure things out, to learn things that I need to know, but we lead with passion.
100%. No one sets out to do this work, and we get thrown a curveball. Typically, I would say 90% of the people that I have interviewed in the past decade have had a loss of some sort and have decided to take that loss to help just one person. They just wanted to not help into one person. That's all they wanted. And I would say 10% had a near miss and this incredible awakening of gratitude, that they feel so grateful that they somehow dodged a bullet, that they were going to take that gratitude to pay it forward. But no one starts out saying, I'm going to start a business. And no one starts out. Even Nancy Brinker, who started Susan G. Komen, she was just on her sister's bedside or deathbed and said to her sister, Susan's dying. And says to Nancy, I think you can help. And she was like, okay, I'm going to do something for my sister. But it wasn't, who would have thought, right? It all starts with passion. So I think that, that's a brilliant quote. Well, so speaking of challenges and why this work is so hard, I think that people forget too that not only are we running businesses, but we have families, we have lives, we have children, we have a lot of things. And I like to say the bucket is heavy. And at the end of the day, some days we're not, running a manufacturing facility that we didn't make enough pencils or widgets. We're taking care of people and families, and that bucket it's hard to set that down. So what do you do when the bucket is heavy? What fuels you to keep going?
Oh my goodness, that's such a great question, because like you said, that is a big challenge. I'm first and foremost, I'm a mom and a wife. And, when we started having a family, my goal was to go back to work part-time once the kids started school.
Right.
That was not in the cards. We started off slowly, the whole grassroots thing. And then it just eventually started snowballing and getting bigger and bigger and growing. So that is a big challenge now, because when you have a nonprofit, it is 24/7, and we're easily accessible this day and age, with internet and texting. It is hard to put some of that down sometimes. But one of the things that Jaron taught me, and even though it's been 10 years since he passed, is to stop and be in the moment. I'm a type A personality. Everything always needs to be done or something needs to get finished. And he taught me that time is precious. And when he was going to sit and ask me to play Play-Doh with him versus folding the load of laundry, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'll sit and play Play-Doh with you. So even now, my two kiddos, they're in elementary school and junior high. When they ask me to do something, and my immediate sense is to say, no, right now I need to do this. I'm like, wait a second. Yeah, you know what? I can sit and draw with you, or I can listen to this with you. So I think really just the time management for sure.
Right. I think it's interesting. I talked to someone yesterday, interviewed someone yesterday who's became a paraplegic in an accident and started this incredible foundation where he supports other paraplegics. And his message was identical to yours. was that time is so precious and we have so little of it here. And to be living in the present is so challenging for most of us. We're always thinking about what we did wrong in the past and where we're going next. And he was saying the exact same thing. So I love that your message is amplifying that, because I think that it's so true. And I think that I lost my mom suddenly in a car accident, which was the precursor for me starting our nonprofit. And she died at 60. And the legacy and the gift was the gift of how precious time is and what we do with it. So I think that that's a gift that you received as well. There are gifts in all of this loss that are surprising and unexpected.
If you change your perspective, absolutely. There is so much beauty that can be found amidst the tragedy.
100%. It's hard. It's a process to get there, but once you're there, your life is so much richer. And I will say, it's like God gave you new glasses, and you can all of a sudden see that you couldn't see before.
1,000%. 1,000%. I feel like if you look just your own self and you put yourself in this box, you're not going to see anything beyond that. But if you're able to broaden the scope and take yourself outside of the box to see the bigger picture, it really can be a beautiful thing. It's hard.
It's hard.
It's a beautiful thing.
Right. And you begin in perspective, you begin to connect the dots, and you begin to see the connections and the trail that's leading you somewhere. You're not sure where, but you begin to see some of that. So, I hate the word impact. I think with nonprofits, we're always asked to measure our impact. We're always asked when we're writing a grant or talking to a donor. They want to know that we are, they're betting on the right horse, and they want a good return on investment. And when you bring a mom whose child is battling cancer a cup of coffee, or you pay someone's rent, or you tell a family like, hey, pizza's on me tonight and don't worry about it. I mean, there's no measuring that. There's no words. There's no measurement for that, which is why I hate the word, because you cannot measure that impact. But what would you describe your impact as far as, and it doesn't matter if it's dollars raised, people served, or just a story of a person whose lives you changed. But I think there's so many ways we can measure that.
There are. I agree. I agree so much. The word impact, and especially, we don't always have measurable outcomes. So even though BumbleBee Foundation has over 350 active families that we're serving throughout the state of California, and with our patient aid program being our largest, that's the financial aid program. A lot of times our impact is simply in the voice on the other end of a line of a mama who you just told that you paid their mortgage for them, or, BumbleBee just saved them from eviction, or just put brand new tires on their vehicle so that they can get their child back and forth to treatment. Those are things that hit when a family is diagnosed that you don't think about, even just something as simple as a meal voucher or a parking voucher.
Right.
It could be, making ends meet and doing just fine. And then all of a sudden your child is diagnosed with cancer, and you have all these unexpected expenses, like paying for parking at a hospital,
Gosh. Right. Don't get me started. I'm very involved with Children's Hospital Los Angeles, and I think parking, and I love CHLA. I'm a trustee. I started a nonprofit there. I love that hospital. Don't get me wrong. But I think valet is $15. So that's a lot of money when you're going back and forth multiple times a day as a family. That's a lot of money no matter what.
The majority of our families are treated there, and we have their little HBO cafe meal vouchers, and we have their parking passes. So when we know a family is going in for treatment or going to be diagnosed, or especially our BMT families that are there for weeks and sometimes months on end, that's 3 meals a day for the parent that's staying with them.
That's a lot.
Adds up. Those are the kinds of impacts that BumbleBee strives to make. One of my most favorite memories is we were able to purchase a used vehicle for a family who was taking public transportation for treatment. and we were able to present this family with this car on Christmas Eve a few years ago. That is one of my favorite stories. Or, you know,
I can't even imagine. I mean, I can't even imagine. Like, that makes me cry just thinking about it. Like, that's magical.
It was fantastic. It was the best Christmas gift for me.
You know, and I see these families at CHLA because I've spent 20 years there. And the nonprofit that I started provided chaplains of all faiths. There weren't chaplains at CHLA we started that in 2003. And so I've seen these families that are your families, and you see just the daily struggle of just a mom or both parents having to be at work, or they're trying to rotate times with, you know, working, and they have other children. And I mean, we just don't think about the difference that something is, you know, transportation and dinner and all of those things that cause incredible stress to families that are trying to be present for their child.
It's such a, you know, child, the one that's actually diagnosed with the cancer, the whole family is diagnosed, you know, and even these siblings too. No, it breaks my heart when you hear a sibling say, I wish I had cancer too, because their brother or sister is the one that's being doted on.
Right. We get notes all the time. Before we had a chapel at CHLA, there used to be a little tiny chapel. It was a closet. And then we built the Interfaith Center a few years ago. But siblings come in with their parents. The parents go in to pray or to have a moment of quiet or reflection or whatever it is that they need. And the children, there's little like note paper, and so many siblings write notes. You know, dear God, please make sure my brother, my sister gets better. Please, I'd rather be sick. I mean, and the chaplains collect all these notes, which we have. And it's heart-wrenching. It's heart-wrenching because all they want is their sibling to get better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It does happen to the whole family. So if you could dream any dream for BumbleBee, and you said your husband's a big dreamer, so I'm sure there's some dreams. What does that dream look like?
If you ask him, he'll tell you a hospital.
Oh, he's a big dreamer.
Our ultimate goal is I would love one day to have beehives all across the country. So our supporters, we call them our beehive. They are part of this organization. They as a whole create that for our BumbleBee kiddos. And so our beehive, our main headquarters is based in Westlake Village, California. And I would love to have that continue being our main beehive with beehives all throughout the states eventually.
Oh, I love that. Well, it seems like you're well on your way to more hives. So do you have like a phrase or a motto that you kind of live by? Is there like something that's kind of like your go-to catchphrase?
Oh, that's a great question. There is something that we do often say in BumbleBee Foundation, and they say it takes a village to raise a child. We say it takes a beehive to raise a child with cancer.
It does. It absolutely does. You think about how many people are buzzing around that one child, that one patient. I'm going to think of that when I'm at the hospital next time, because that really does make me think of it. So I know there's so many lessons that you learn in grief and in loss and in starting a business and in a decade of just living life. There are lessons that we learn. But what lessons have you learned along this journey since you've lost your son and since starting BumbleBee? I mean, what life lessons have you learned from this? And how do you think you've changed?
Oh my gosh, so many. I can sum it up in one word though, and that one word is trust. Trust the process, trust the journey. Trust has been the one thing that resonates the most with me since the day that Jaren was diagnosed.
I love that. And do you think you've changed a lot?
Oh gosh. My heart, my eyes, my everything, like going through something like that, you cannot come away unscathed, unchanged. You learn to love more. You learn to accept more. You learn to see the beauty in a situation that people may not see beauty in. These cancer families are my everything. Making these connections with them and making things easier for them is such an honor for me as Jaren's mom. I get to do that in memory of my son, and I get to do that because of the support of those of our beehive that allow me that gift.
That's beautiful. And it's true. I mean, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to serve. And I think that people always think like, well, how do you do that? You're like, you get so filled up from it. It can be depleting, but you also get paid in such different ways, in such bigger ways, more important ways, more paydays. Yeah, non-tangible ways. And when you get a payday, you know it. Like when you've changed someone's life, or you know that you haven't changed someone's life, that you have a hand in something that has changed someone's life, I should say. Mm-hmm. There's no better feeling.
It is truly amazing. You know, and like I said, I get to do that in memory of Jaren. People have asked me sometimes, how do you still stay involved in that? How do you continue to go back through that process or relive that with the families? One of the things that I've always been adamant about is doing the patient aid myself and connecting with the families myself, because that's why we started it. Even though we've grown, I want to continue to be that person, because having walked those shoes and experienced that, and even if it's just someone on the other end of the line that just needs to cry and hear the understand and you're not alone.
I mean, it's that emotional lifeline is the most significant gift you can give somebody. I mean, they're going under. They don't know how to keep their head up. And and I think when someone knows someone cares and someone gets it, and someone's been there, I think it just changes everything. It changes everything. And I think that is such a beautiful legacy, an incredible gift. And I mean, what a legacy your little bee has left you. I mean, really unbelievable. So tell us how we can be part of the hive, how we can support BumbleBee Foundation, where we can donate, how we can volunteer, how we can get involved, what can we do?
So you can find us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We are entering the world of TikTok, although slowly. Foundation on Instagram and Facebook, and our website, bumblebeefoundation.org. Go on there, sign up for our monthly newsletter. I promise we won't spam you or anything. We just let you know our programs, our events, our upcoming needs for volunteers. There's a donate button on there. We are so grateful for the support. Our monthly recurring donors, some people just donate $10 a month, but that $10 a month truly, truly makes a difference. And that pays for a parking pass, for our family.
That. Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't have to be anything huge. We're so grateful for the support. Just go on bumblebeefoundation.org and sign up for the newsletter, and we'd love to have our hive. Follow us on social media. It's harder and harder these days with these constant changing algorithms to reach people without a huge budget for marketing.
I hear you. And that's such an easy way to support people. I mean, I think people forget sometimes that the littlest things make the biggest difference. And it is the little things. So following on social media, donating a small amount, even just volunteering or signing up for a newsletter to share with someone, or telling someone that you know that you heard this and about how fantastic it is, or sharing it with a family that's going through something, even sharing, this conversation or your information. I think that goes a really long way. Well, absolutely. Heather, you are a gift to the world. And I think that what you are doing is truly magical and so needed. And you're just a bright light. And thank you so much for sharing your joy and your beautiful work and your story and your son's incredible legacy with us. We're just really honored to have this time with you.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate the opportunity to be able to share, and you're going to make me cry.
Oh, well, you're making me cry because you're magical, just magical. So thank you. Thank you.
Doing and helping us get the word out.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Charity Matters podcast. I really enjoyed talking to Heather about what it takes to start a business that truly changes people's lives. I think her comment about time and how we use it was so inspiring and true. To learn more about modern-day heroes like Heather, visit us at charity-matters.com or connect with us on Instagram at Charity Matters. If you enjoyed our conversation, we would love it if you shared this with your friends and family. Please subscribe and don't forget to leave a rating. Remember that together we can make a difference, one small act of kindness at a time. See you in season 3.